What is the difference between when I first, came into my position as a coordinator for a large urban school district in health and PE? We had Focus Fitness and we had Welnet, and I had a hard time. Wait, is it two separate organizations, or is it Focus Fitness, or is it Welnet? So, can you elaborate what is Welnet?
Yeah. So that would be, again, because I'm an educator first and not a business person. I didn't go to business school. So anything I've learned has had to be through trial and error and making mistakes. But, there's definitely a branding issue. But I'd say Focus Fitness is the top. And then underneath it, we have Five for Life, Fab Five, and we have Welnet. And Welnet is our software. We started designing it. My partner and I, we wrote the software requirements for it. We spent all summer back in 2004, and we started writing what we wanted Welnet to be. Now, since that time, we now have over 6 million student accounts, over 30,000 teacher accounts in the US, and they're using Welnet to collect and to report valuable data to support and justify their programs. In addition to that, they're also having students use it to get content across. So think of it like an LMS, a learning management system for physical education. It was built specifically for physical education. And yes, there's a module for collecting fitness. However, it's more about looking for trends, looking for what program deficiencies you might have, maybe teaching deficiencies. I looked at my fitness scores and I said, my kids are real low on cardio. Well, I happen to know that cardio is one of the first things you can pick up. Well, so what did I start to do? I started doing more instant activity. I started moving my kids longer. I started using progression, overload, and specificity to get my kids more cardio. And then what did I see? I saw in my post tests, I saw that my kids' cardio was higher. Now, I know there's 100,000 people that can poke holes in doing fitness for kids. I will forever stand behind teaching kids about fitness, but it's not about turning a kid into a little robot and having them hate fitness. It's about teaching them fitness through fun activities. And I believe every kid wants to move. It's just not every kid feels good moving. So you have to understand where kids are at. And that's the value of having software, is that I can look at it and go, where are my students at? What do I need to do to make this specific to them? So Welnet's huge. I don't want to make this an infomercial, but we've had a lot of success with it. It's been great. It was the first web-based software program that existed for physical education. I will go to the bank on that one. Our claim to fame is that we're PE teachers, so we support it. If you ask anybody that uses Welnet, they'll say we support it. If anybody has a bad process or a bad way that it happened, then I want to know, because I know a PE teacher has no time. I had a 5-minute passing, and for whatever reason, every teacher got it wrong on both sides of the clock. They dropped their kids off 5 minutes early and they picked them up 5 minutes late. I figured if you couldn't keep time, you should at least be wrong on the same side both times. But no, that's not it. So we didn't want teachers to have issues. So we tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. It integrates with student information systems. So like right now we're over 50. So if you've got Power School or Infinite Campus or whatever, every night we upload rosters so teachers never have to do that. Because again, that's not what their job is. Their job is to teach kids about quality physical education. So that's why we built Welnet, to help them with that.
Yeah, and I really used Welnet back when I was getting my doctorate in education, educational leadership, and I used a lot of, I think 77,000 student fitness test scores, and I merged them with student growth scores. So I was able to look at that data, and if it wasn't for Welnet and the ease of use, then I would not have been able to have that data and prove that in my own district that the data spoke that those who met all fitness components were more likely going to show higher academic growth scores in reading and math in grades 3 through 8. So that's when I really dove into Welnet and the power of it. Again, we're not trying to, do an infomercial promotion, but it was so useful. And that's when I think was the very first, my second or third year in my school district, that really that data spoke loudly to my district leaders. They started to finally pay attention, like, ooh, we need to provide funding. We need to provide instructional time for quality health and PE. It's not just a break. It is a program, a curriculum that can help our district's test scores. And I was able to prove that. So if it wasn't for Welnet, I would not have been able to do that. So thank you for you and Karen's vision for creating that. And I do see the difference now. Focus Fitness is the big organization. Welnet is your learning management system that I believe you said also integrates now with Canvas, Schoology, all the heavy hitters of learning management systems. So you can integrate that as well, which is so powerful right now in the pandemic.
Yeah, and also wearables. And we started integrating with wearables about 6 years ago with Polar and Garmin and Fitbit and Engage with their M5. And the reason why this is important is because there's still a large group of people that wants accountability. I look at digital devices as tools, and tools that will help kids understand the content, not necessarily that, you have to have X amount of minutes, but there are people that go down that route. And so one way or another, we can have that data come across. Kim, you said something though that I think is important to just dive a little deeper in. And you said your administrators, they wanted to understand the data. And see, that's the language they speak. And I know I've heard enough conversations, and I follow people on Twitter and I listen to things. I don't always speak because I know people will see me coming from a certain angle. Well, like, yeah, you have Welnet, so obviously that's you have confirmation bias, or you're going to plug your thing. But the reality is if they play by those rules and they be in other subject areas, then we're at a disadvantage if we don't play by those rules.
That's
if we want everybody to look at us like we're important, which we are, then you have to speak the language they understand, and they understand data. And the whole data drives decisions. And again, people get upset about that, but the reality is it doesn't hurt to collect data as long as I can still teach the way I want to teach or get across what I want to get across. There's a large school district, one of the largest, that has elementary classroom teachers that have to teach PE. And they're not going to do fitness, and that's okay. They're going to teach movement skills, but they're using Welnet to collect data on whether or not teachers are being effective, not for accountability, but for professional development. So they can send in a cadre of physical educators like Andrew and Keith and you, Kim, and myself to go in and teach them the progressions of skipping, hopping, throwing, whatever it may be. So we're asking classroom teachers to do this. Now, I'm not saying that we want classroom teachers doing our job, but that's the reality of this district. And if that's the case, then they need data to support, is it working or not working? And what do we have to do? So it's not just fitness. To me, fitness is the least important. Do your kids know your content? Do your kids, are they starting to act upon it? How much are your kids sleeping? Do your middle school kids know what sleep debt is? Do they know how much sleep they should be getting? They should be getting 8 to 10 hours a night. What are they really getting? If we knew that as teachers, we might be scared, right? Well, kids will tell you. If there's no grade associated with it, they have no reason not to tell you. They'll tell you they're playing Call of Duty until 3 o'clock in the morning, having to get to zero period, right? So these are important things for us to understand as educators and go, okay, how do we work within the confines of what we have here?
Yeah, that's so true. And when you say that kids self-report on some of that information, let's say hydration logs, sleep deprivation, is if a grade is not tied to it, but also our audience needs to know is the more students that self-report, the higher the sample size, the more valid the data is. So when large school districts collect their own data and you have a coordinator that's able to take all this and to paint a picture of the health of their students, what the data says and how it correlates to maybe their growth scores or end of year testing scores. I mean, that's truly, truly powerful. And it is a skill though, but it's something that all coordinators can learn and just look at the spreadsheets, because you can export that information from Welnet and then merge certain spreadsheets together and so forth. It's time consuming, but eventually it really paints the story of what your district needs. And it always says, it always highlights the importance of quality health and PE. You can't go wrong. I always tell you, cannot go wrong. So
no, if you're gonna make an ask, you better make an ask with some substantiated facts behind you. You can't just go in and say, I want X amount of money. Someone's gonna say, for what and why, right? So this gives you something to stand upon.
Yeah,